Okay, Gregory, we are now live. You go
Okay.
by Gregory or Greg?
Greg.
Okay, awesome. So do I, so even better. Yeah, Greg, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and then introduce the topic? Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Greg Faris. I actually live in Menlo Park, but I'm often in Palo Alto. Actually, we're very close to the border, and I've been bicycling around Palo Alto, Menlo Park for 42 years, and I'm pretty familiar with, you know, the hazards of riding a bicycle, which are not insignificant. But the reason I had reached out was I started riding a route that took me across El Camino at Sandhill Road.
Mhm.
And within 1 week, I almost got hit twice. I think it's a very dangerous situation, and it needs attention. And I'd be happy to share my screen. I can
Yeah, could you
show you the
please?
intersection.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Is this showing up?
Yeah,
So here's El Camino. Train tracks are here. Stanford Shopping Center is here. And so when these two episodes occurred, I was crossing this crosswalk here on my bicycle. And right here, it's 8 lanes across. So it's a fair bit of pavement to cross. But what's happening here is that there's this right-hand turn lane here. And this was at the end of the day, maybe around 6 p.m., in both occasions. The cars are coming down this right-hand turn lane, and they're just rolling right through the intersection to make the turn. And I know this very well. I mean, being on a bicycle for a long time, cars aren't looking for bicycles. They aren't looking for pedestrians. They're primarily just looking for cars. And a lot of people are looking at their phones. A lot of people are looking for traffic with their peripheral vision. And with peripheral vision, you can see cars, but you can't see pedestrians and you can't see bicycles. At any rate, it's possible that people have gotten seriously hurt here already in this zone. And part of what makes it dangerous for the pedestrians and the bicycles, well, you've got a long way to go, but there's usually, I mean, when it's a red light, you've got a row of cars here, and it's hard to see these cars coming to make that turn. So it's hard for them to see pedestrians, and it's hard for the pedestrians to see them. And further, a lot of cars, they have a pillar between the windshield and the driver's window, and that further blocks their vision. So it's very dangerous, and if people haven't already gotten hurt, people are going to get hurt. And the fact that I was almost hit twice in a week is telling me that's a big problem. You know, if you go into statistics, you could say, well, it's not impossible that it would be a very rare event that would happen in 1 week, but I'm very concerned about what's going on, and I see why it's happening, because the cars come down here in the right-hand turn lane. They know that a lot of these other cars are not a risk for them, and they just roll right through. Anyway, I wanted to bring that to your attention.
actually, so Greg,
Go
can you draw on the screen, or can you zoom in a little bit more? It's a little bit small, but can you draw in where you were and where the car was exactly?
Let's see. That's where
You could draw on the screen.
yeah, let me see.
What was the car here?
Spotlight. I don't know. The car was right here,
Okay,
and I was right here.
okay, okay. And the light was red, and the car is just oh,
Yeah.
things talking to me. Okay, okay, and so yeah, so it's on the left hand corner of the pillar. Probably you were blocked, like they couldn't quite see you.
Could be. I mean, so yeah, a lot of people are pushing the rules, so they should stop.
Yeah,
And then once they're stopped, they should look. And then after they've stopped and they've looked, they can go. But what they're
Yeah.
doing is they're rolling, maybe looking a little bit, maybe not seeing, but they're not stopping.
Mm.
So yeah, I think they think that they're doing fine, but they're not thinking about pedestrians. They're not thinking about the pillar that blocks their visibility.
Sure.
And sometime if people haven't already gotten hit, they're going to get hit. And I think it's and it may be compounded. It seems like drivers have gotten worse during the pandemic, and I don't know, a lot of people looking into that, but it's a big hazard.
So, what do you think we should do to solve this?
Well, so one thing, I mean, so there's kind of assessments and then there's actions. So, and I'm not a traffic person, but it seems to me that in terms of assessment, one thing is one could look at, I don't know, in terms of traffic incidents, if it's easy to narrow down and see, have there been incidents reported here? And I have no idea how, what that database is like. And so that's one thing. Another thing is, and I don't think that the city wants to take an action just based on one person who said they almost got hit twice, and maybe they will. I mean, it's clear to me, it's clearly a big problem. But another option would be, in terms of assessment, would be to put a camera and just look. And I've thought about just taking my camera out and doing it myself. And if there's no other way, maybe I would do that. Just go out there and film for a while. So I think that either one of those things, either looking at traffic incidents or recording what's happening in the intersection, will confirm what I'm saying, that there's a problem. And other people have told me the same thing about people rolling through that light, and it's no surprise. I mean, people are doing that all over the county, all over the Bay Area, all over the country, rolling through red lights, making a right-hand turn. In terms of actions to make it safer, one possibility would be to, I don't know how much this would help, but to actually put the have the cars stop further back from the crosswalk, because the stop line is here. When a pedestrian or a cyclist is coming across, there's kind of a wall of cars, and depending on what they are, I mean, if they're trucks or SUVs or minivans, you can't see here. And if that line was pushed back, and I don't see why there would be any risk. And in fact, you look at this left-hand turn lane, that's way back here. So, I mean, pushing that back would give the drivers more visibility before they enter the crosswalk, and give the pedestrians more visibility before the cars are right on them. And the other thing, is I'm not knowledgeable about the politics of traffic cameras in Palo Alto, but I would recommend putting a traffic camera and instituting some fines, because I think that really will change the behavior. Because what happens is that people come up to the intersection, the car in front of them rolls through, they start rolling through, and if you start turning it, I mean, the more people who are rolling through, the more people will roll through. And if a couple of people get tickets and they stop and they don't roll through, then I think the rest of the traffic will, I think the impact of tickets go beyond the person who's received the ticket. But just out of curiosity, what is the Palo Alto stance on traffic cameras?
We don't have any in our city, although I know that Menlo Park does. And in fact, I heard that one of the number one ticket you get from the red light cameras is actually a right turn on red. That's actually the most popular of all the tickets. It's very rarely you're in a central lane, you just go right through, but very, very common for cars to not stop when making a right, like they're supposed to. Yeah, and now that I think about it, I haven't had the issue here because I don't travel this intersection a whole lot. But I remember, I was in Menlo Park. I was biking in Menlo Park, and I think I was on Willow. And when I was biking on Willow, I forgot the cross street, but it was past El Camino. I forgot which street it was, and this car didn't like. I think, was it red light, or I was trying to think. No, I think it was a green light. right? Or from red to a green, and I was about to go because it just turned, but the car that was on the left of me was making a right-hand turn, and it almost hit me, right? And I was like, oh my God, that was kind of some of my life flashed
Oh,
before
that
my
one.
eyes there, right?
I know
Yeah.
that one exactly. I've been hit 4 times
Wow.
by cars traveling parallel to me. Well, maybe I'll use my hands. I'm going this way. The car's
Yeah.
going this way.
Yeah.
They pass me. They slow down and they turn.
Yeah.
I've been struck 4 times, and I'm embarrassed to say it took me 4 times to learn. But you can always tell when the cars, and I don't think any of them had their turn. That none of them had their turn
Yeah,
signal.
exactly. That's the thing about they don't turn their turn
They
signal
don't
on, so you don't
put it
know,
on
right?
because they're all the way over in the right, and they're making a right, and they don't see the point. But
Yeah.
they always slow down just slightly before they turn. So
Yeah.
if the car is in that position where they
Yeah.
could hit me, and if they slow down even the slightest bit, I'll slow down. But because I've been hit 4 times
Yeah.
by
Well,
exactly that, and actually almost hit a couple other times.
there's a middle schooler a couple years ago who got hit and died on El Camino and California. So a truck, I'm not sure the exact setup, but basically a truck was making a right and
Wow.
basically killed the kid.
Oh,
So yeah, so
yeah.
right-hand turns definitely are problematic, right? And I've experienced it myself. In your case, it's a little bit different where you're crossing the street, and I think um, I think yeah, I think they're just so red light cameras is a possible solution. I know that they're very controversial because some people feel they do give a lot of tickets out. They give a lot of tickets out, but they can be very effective in terms of preventing tragedies, right?
Yeah. I mean, and there can be different reasons for having them, but I mean, you could have them to raise revenue, or you could have them to change behavior.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's always going to be people who say, well, you just have it to raise revenue. But I mean, if the cars, so I mean, this particular intersection, I think is quite dangerous. And maybe the first step is to do some kind of assessment.
yeah,
Because if cars are rolling through there routinely, then you have to do something. So you could put an officer out there.
yeah. But that's
Or
crazy expensive, right, to do.
yeah. So I mean, I think if I'm correct, and they're just rolling through like all the time, something should be done. So, I mean,
Yeah,
is it possible to put a camera out to monitor and see,
yeah. They have
how
these
they,
cameras. They're actually quite nice. They're used for like temporary monitoring. They have like this little extension pole, so they chain it to a pole, and then so we do that all the time actually.
okay.
Um, but I don't know. I think we kind of know the issue. The question is how do we solve it, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's not just this intersection, but it's one thing I've been really looking to quite a bit is protected bike lanes. Now, it wouldn't necessarily solve this problem, but I'm just trying to think of you know um, one of the big reasons we did a survey. We asked why, because like in our area, like Menlo Park, Palo Alto, it's like ideal biking weather, right? It's rarely rains. It's not too hot. There's no hills, right? It's pretty ideal, right?
Yeah.
So and we're trying to figure out like why don't more people want to bike, right? The school kids bike, but a lot of the adults don't bike. And one of the bigger reasons why is because um people don't feel safe, right? Because people get hit, I think, and that was the overwhelming reason why people didn't want to bike was because of they didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so like and then if we look at our city, our city has a goal of trying to get trying to be very eco-friendly, and the vast majority of our greenhouse gas actually is from cars, right? And you can try to get people to carpool, but fundamentally the thing that you have to get people out of the cars, right? You either need more public transit, which is hard in a low density area like this, or you need to get people out on bikes, right? But the problem is people want to bike, they don't feel safe, right?
Right.
So whenever it's a bike versus a 2-ton car, the car wins every single time, right? So yeah, so I've been thinking about how do we make people feel safe. So protected bike lane is certainly one way, because there's some sort of barrier between the biker and the car, and that helps a lot. But still, these intersections are tough, right? And one thing I've seen so I used to have an office in Shenzhen, China, and of course it's a much bigger city than this area. But what they do is it's actually quite interesting. Is they completely separate out the pedestrian traffic from the car traffic, and so they would have like literally a bridge. They would have like a pedestrian bridge, like on like a street like this, the pedestrian bridge, so you could just cross, right? And they actually have like these and the steps are interesting because on the center of the steps they have these built-in ramps where you could walk your bike up. You could walk on the stairs, and then you don't have to lift your bike up. You could have these you couldn't really ride up, not unless you're like really just incredible shape, but you could just like like pull your bike up, right, along a ramp. So it's not that hard, and so so you could cross these intersections. And but I know that costs money too, right? That's not a cheap solution, and I don't know how many people would actually take that, but maybe for these large arterials, maybe that's something we should think about, right? Because if we want to get people out of the cars, people have to feel safe, right?
Yeah.
There has to be, and also if you could do something like that, then also makes the travel time faster, right? You don't have to
Right.
you don't have to wait for the light, right? Either overpass or underpass. Probably overpass is cheaper, right? But that's another solution. It's just expensive, right? How do you do it? But if we would do a lot of them, let's say we try to do that, throughout the city or area, right? Then it's probably not that expensive. We're just doing one, it gets crazy expensive, but
Yeah.
yeah. But that's what I've
Also-
seen, like what Shenzhen did was that they just totally separate out the cars and bikers. I mean,
Right.
the cars from the bikes and pedestrians. And so yeah, I mean, so like as a result, a lot of people bike or walk because they don't feel. In fact, you kind of have to even see like that. It's so many people, like 20 million people. You just have to, right?
Mhm.
But that's another solution. That's just expensive. But another way is changing people's behavior.
Yeah.
But what I
Yeah.
do sometimes myself, just to kind of because I've seen that too myself. I've never got hit, but I've seen it. What I do is I ring my bell just as I cross, just to kind of get people's attention. But a lot of times they don't hear it. They're just
Right.
they're not focused on it, right? They're
Right.
they're trying to get where they're trying to go, right? And that's also really a very wide turn, right? So it's easy for you to go pretty fast on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's going from a fast street to another fast street, right? So
Right.
people just want to make a fast
Yeah, I
turn.
think they're going from a highway to a highway, and it's an on-ramp.
Yeah. Um, but I know. What do you think about a pedestrian bridge?
At that intersection?
Yeah, but see, it's different in China because they can do them kind of cheaply because in the United States you have to have these ADA compliant ramps. So the ramps have to be like these 1% or 2% grade, like really slight. And what they do in China is they're not ADA compliant whatsoever. They're just basically a staircase, right? And then they just on the center of the staircase they fill it in with concrete, so it's like a ramp.
Okay.
So it's absolutely not ADA compliant. Nobody could probably pull themselves up with a wheelchair. It's not meant for that. It's just
Yeah,
meant
yeah.
for you to be able to take your bike over, right? Like take it up without having to carry it up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there are a
So
number of bridges around. There's one across Woodside Road. There's one at the Home Depot across 101.
yeah, but those are really expensive bridges because
Yeah.
because like that bridge across 101. Well, that's the East Palo Alto Bridge. So that wasn't that. I think that was like 9 million or 8 to 9 million, something,
Wow.
like, which is still expensive, right?
Mhm.
But we built one in Palo Alto. I think it was like $15 million, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
The
it's,
other
it's like,
thing, I guess, about this location, I mean, across 101, there's no way for a pedestrian to go across, but if one were at this intersection, a lot of the pedestrians would keep going across the crosswalk in spite of the danger, because it'd be a lot longer across the bridge. Maybe some of the bicycles too. So in terms of the number of people use it, there's also that part of it. I mean, clearly you want people who are seeking safety to have a safe option, and people who don't care as much. I mean, there's not much you can do, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, probably the cheapest way would be to have some sort of red light camera or enforcement, right? But it's like it's like enforcement has to be kind of sort of continuous, otherwise it kind of fades, right? So relay camera would probably be the best, but it's very controversial. A lot of people don't like it because, I mean, a lot of them perceive them like actually like for the company that does this, I think they will install the equipment for free, and then they can take a rev share out of the citations.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
people,
I mean, it's really on the drivers, because if it was 1 in 1,000 drivers that does it, then there would be no need to put a camera in for safety. Well, it'd be a small need, but when so many are using it, they've brought it on themselves. So if they change their behavior, then there's no need for the camera. And I don't know. I mean, you would be in the. I mean, the council would be in the hot seat on this, but I mean, you have to make a choice, because I mean, the other option is wait until somebody gets seriously hurt and then put in the camera. But you don't want to do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think fundamentally, in my mind, the best way is actually to separate out the cars and the cars and the bikes, right? I think fundamentally, I think that's the best solution, so that you don't have this kind of conflict.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do in the 2020s? I mean, that's 2030s.
I know.
Maybe.
Well, I think if it was a China style bridge, that could happen very quickly. Right? These are not as elaborate as our, as like a bridge over 101, where it's like, I mean, but yeah, I mean I think that just would not fly here, right? Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's another more elegant thing where maybe it could be like a bike tunnel, right? that could start from, let's say, I don't know, over here somewhere, right? And then it lets out over here or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of space. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of buildings.
Yeah, just something like, well, maybe it starts out over here and just kind of goes through like this. But that would be crazy expensive though.
Yeah.
But
well, something needs to happen, or something. You're gonna start racking up casualties.
Yeah.
And
well, I
maybe
mean, there's a big push to try to get people to bike more, and and there's electric bikes now, right? Electric bikes, what would be kind of a tough ride for some people now becomes a very easy ride. So, so the technology is enabling more people to want to bike, but people have to feel safe. Even if it's easy to bike, if they don't feel safe, they're just not going to do it.
Right.
And I don't think there's another way across, right? There's no other easy way across El Camino.
No.
Anywhere.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, we want more people on the bikes, but if one of those 2 events I had been hit, I'd probably be off the bike. I mean, because I'm not a young guy, it's not going to be easy to recover and get back on the bike to start with.
Yeah.
And my wife's just going to say, "You're not getting on that bike anymore." I mean, if I'm in the hospital for a month, she's going to say no.
Yeah.
And so you have one less cyclist, one more driver.
Yeah.
Which we don't want. We want more cyclists.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? I mean, there's this gas prices are like $7 or whatever, right? And we want to, for the environment, sake of the environment, we're trying to cut down on the number of cars, but yeah, I mean, this we have to have a solution to this. Otherwise, I think maybe a bike tunnel might be a good thing, at least in this area, because there's enough space around here that you could do it. It wouldn't be as hard, I think, because I think with a tunnel, it's easy for people to get across, but for a bridge, people, to go over it can be hard sometimes, because you also need to ramp up, right?
Yeah. I mean, also with the tunnels, some people get spooked by tunnels. I mean, the tunnel that goes under the tracks at is it Homer?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty wide open, but there's another pedestrian tunnel. I'm not sure it's still there. That was near California Avenue. I mean, there's just some stairs, and it may not be there anymore. But I had a buddy who went under there, and he got mugged under there. He was going one way, and 2 guys are going. I mean, they must have seen him going down, and they were going the other way, and they kind of grabbed him under the tunnel. And
well, maybe a bridge is better than, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but
yeah. But anyways, I think separation is good, but the temporary, you're right, the 2020 solution is going to be enforcement. So Greg, to make this thing a little bit more tangible, what you could do that would be really helpful, and we could help promote it as well, would be to start a change.org. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but you could start like an online petition to try to get a red light camera here, right? And try to get more people to sign up for it, right? To say, yes, we want something like this. But I just know that crossing El Camino in general has been somewhat dangerous, not just here, but like in various parts. I think like a lot of people have been hit or killed or almost hit crossing El Camino. And in some ways, we shouldn't have to cross El Camino, or there should be a better way.
Yeah. So you're suggesting do change.org to get a camera?
Yeah, or if you think that's the solution, or maybe you could shoot for the 2030 solution, go for a bridge or something, right? But the camera's probably the easier way to make happen, right? That's not hard to get set up. It's just the political pushback, right?
So I think we're kind of talking about political cover here a little bit. I mean, change.org, if there's a lot of people who sign up, I'm not optimistic that it's going to be a groundswell. I mean, if there are 10 people, then
yeah,
I haven't actually done anything like that before, but if there were a video showing what's actually happening, I mean, do you think that would get the council to put a camera in?
So what's interesting here is this is right on the border of Palo Alto and Menlo Park, right?
Mhm.
It's like I'm not entirely sure where the line goes, because it goes
It's way back.
it's
I'm
back there.
sorry.
Okay, so this is Palo Alto's land then. Okay,
It's
so
way back here.
okay, okay,
Because it's the creek. Well,
yeah, it's a
actually,
creek.
yeah. I don't actually see the creek, but I think the
But
creek is past this hotel.
okay,
And I know on this side,
okay,
uh,
okay. So it's
no,
squarely in Palo Alto.
the Palo Alto tree is way down there.
Okay,
So
okay. So that makes it easy for us.
yeah,
So it is also a interstate, right? So like whenever there's the state and then the city, there's always this kind of jurisdictional confusion. But um, but like like El Camino, I'm not sure where you are in Menlo Park, but where I am in Palo Alto, El Camino is a total wreck. I mean, it's just all broken up, and it's just
mm,
yeah.
yeah.
But we've never done red light cameras in our city. So in Menlo Park is probably a little bit easier because you guys have them already, but in our city we never had them. So that's another kind of that's kind of like another thing that's tough, right?
Well, so the question is, are you going to enforce the red light or not?
Well, the red light cameras are automatic, right? The red light cameras,
Yeah.
they
So I guess reframing this, there's a problem,
yeah.
and are you going to enforce it or not?
Well,
Is Palo Alto going to enforce it or not?
well, if a police officer is there, he would certainly enforce it, right? But what I'm saying is for how long,
Well,
right?
yeah. So if people are just doing it routinely, you're not enforcing it.
Yeah, of
If you're
course.
enforcing it, then it's going to be rare.
Yeah.
So right now it's not rare. So you're not I mean, it's not being enforced. So yeah, maybe if a police officer happened to be there, but enforcing it means that well, okay, I guess enforcing it can mean multiple things, but you could enforce it lightly, or enforce where nothing changes, or you can enforce it to the point where people follow the rules.
Yeah. Well,
So
here's another idea.
99% of the people follow the rules.
Yeah, here's another idea is maybe you set the red light camera, and on the first time you blow past this red light, you just get a warning, right? But you blow past it twice, maybe you get a ticket,
Yeah.
right?
The company, I don't know how the company feels about that, but
Well, they want, of course, as many tickets as possible, right?
yeah, I like that idea. So once per license plate, you get a freebie
Yeah.
with a note that if you do it again. I like that idea.
Yeah. What they do actually is they take a video, so you can actually see yourself
Yeah.
going through there, and so you get a little video, and you can
Mhm.
see that you can see the light too, right? So you can see yourself blow
Right.
past that light, right?
Right.
And so it's really hard to contest.
Mhm. Do you think that would fly, the warning?
I've never tested the temperature for red light cameras in Palo Alto, so I don't know actually. I'm not sure. But it is a solution, right? It is a solution to this problem. And it's something that if you go down El Camino towards Menlo Park, you guys have a bunch of them, right, on El Camino.
Yeah, I know they were. I'm not sure if they're still installed or not. I haven't actually, I don't remember seeing the flashes because
Oh,
they may be gone now. But they were definitely there. Yeah, I remember. I mean, maybe 4 years ago, I definitely remember them, being there. And I just haven't checked recently.
yeah.
I think
don't
they're
know either.
gone, but yeah. Um,
Okay. Well, anyways, Greg, thank you for bringing this to my attention. If you do separate change.org, we'll post this video, and we could try to help promote it as well.
Can,
We have a bike pedestrian plan, master plan for the city.
Mhm.
So I'll definitely bring this up, and that kind of falls, that this would fall into this, into that program. And then I have a legislative aide who's actually focused on biking. So Josh, and I'll have him get in touch with you. So I'll have Inez connect
Great.
him with you,
Okay.
and we'll try to see if we can carry this forward.
Do you think we can start with maybe just a camera to monitor to see the level of compliance?
So I don't control staff directly.
Okay.
So if this is already in the biking plan, then yes. But if it's not, then changing course is always a little bit tougher. But so that's why you also have to kind of rally support, because things are never so
Yeah,
like,
awesome.
you can't, it's hard to do things on demand. It's
Okay.
like a big ship. It kind of wants to go this direction that it's going,
Okay,
even
all right.
if it's not quite right.
Okay.
Okay, but Inez,
Okay, yeah, I'll look forward to hearing from Josh and.
yeah, so Inez, connect Josh with Greg so that he can help follow up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate your time. I know that that your job is tremendously demanding, very little appreciation, a lot of complaining, but I greatly appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. But thank you for letting me know. I'm a big biker myself, so I think this is important.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, have a
Enjoy
good
your
evening.
work.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.